Bonsoir, my British chums, and welcome. I don't know what welcome is to the WrestleTalk Podcast review.
Bienvenue à la podcast du WrestleTalk.
Edition of Backlash France. Oh, we're going to do predictions for this show. I did not do French at school because I did German.
Right, I see.
So I could do Willkommen.
Oui.
Willkommen,
Le Monde.
WrestleTalk Podcast.
We'll save that for Berlin, obviously. You've got a show to use
I'm
that.
going to flourish when it comes to...
Meanwhile...
As you can tell there by my excellent German to start us off there, where I think I said Willkommen, then said the next word wrong.
Yeah.
I'm going to flourish when it comes to Bash at Berlin.
Je parle un peu français.
Comment tu t'appelles?
Je m'appelle Dan.
Je m'appelle Luke Owen, D-A-D. I don't know what D-A or D is in French.
D-A-D.
D-A-D. And please do press the subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up as well. Leave a comment down below with your predictions for Backlash France. I'd imagine this will have a terrible retention rate at the start of this video as a lot of people click off in the first 30 seconds.
Je pense que le Backlash France will be un show excellent. Mais le matches are few. I'll get there. I wish I'd done the research.
Aller à la piscine?
Oui. Où est la gare?
Well, okay.
Should we just do the show now?
I only know two things in French, which is où est à la piscine, which I believe is where's the swimming pool. Or
à la piscine is at the swimming pool.
At the swimming pool, yeah. Piscine is the only thing I know because I'm 13 years old, and that's pretty funny. That and my French teacher, when I did do it for like 6 months in year 9, would she go, pourquoi? Pourquoi?
Pourquoi? And we also know that, of course, from Maurice's absolute banger of a theme.
Do we really?
Do you know that's the song?
No, I cannot tell you how Maurice's theme
Pourquoi
goes.
tu si belle? It's a banger. It's a Eurovision classic.
Well, I could just do this as Editor Terry.
Yeah.
Hello, welcome to the WrestleTalk Podcast.
Oh,
just
God.
A pitch perfect impersonation. Please do let us know what you think of this show in the comments down below. We're going to be doing our predictions for this show. Only 5 matches to go through, which is standard for a Triple H card.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people are feeling like this is a B show.
Oh, it's B it couldn't be more B.
Yeah,
it's a B movie.
Oh, it's got a real B in its bonnet.
It's B,
about it being a B show.
It's
but
B-tastic.
I mean, you look at it, it's 5 good matches, and it's kind of, it's not got the WrestleMania star power to it, but it is kind of like a good window into this is what the rest of your year is going to look like until our other stars like CM Punk come back.
So what you're saying is it could be B-Fab. Anyway, what's really interesting is that, like, looking at this card, something that we said on the SmackDown pod the other day was that we're getting used to there being a champion there again. Mm-hmm. Do you know what, the World Championship is being defended on this Backlash.
2 of them are.
Well, I mean the WWE Championship specifically. That's wild. That hasn't happened in ages.
It happened literally at the last show.
Did it?
Yeah, the WWE Championship was defended at WrestleMania. It's when Cody Rhodes won it.
Luke, I'm talking about Backlash. I'm talking about not like. What are we doing? Do you pay this guy? Come on.
I mean,
no,
I would talk in more specifics, Dan, because I said a correct statement.
But like obviously the main shows, but we're talking about these like B-level shows where your Cody Rhodes is going to be there.
Yeah, I would agree with that. My big takeaway and my big hot take for Backlash France is that it is a damning indictment of Triple H's forward planning.
Okay.
And he planned everything up until WrestleMania and then had not planned what was going to happen after that in terms of making sure he had stars ready to fill in the roles of when all the other top stars left. Because what we've got here is, I feel, quite a lot of mid-card matches. This feels like my current roster on our My GM series, where I've got one person in the 90s and then everyone else is in the 70s.
Right.
But we are going to kick things off of our...
I don't know if I fully agree with that, but we'll get to it.
Let's get things off with the tag team match to start us off. It is Randy Orton and Kevin Owens, Team RKO.
Nice.
Taking on the Bloodline of Solo Sikoa and the debuting Tama Tonga.
This is a grudge match, as it was being described as on Monday Night Raw. And this is another thing where I'm like, it's why I don't know that I fully agree with your assessment of it, because we have this new Bloodline story, which I'm really into. I'm really intrigued by. The sort of Paul Heyman being not 100% sure who is giving the instruction here. So he sort of is trying to hedge his bets a bit, but not able to. Tama Tonga looking like an absolute beast. Just the aggression between Kevin Owens and Tama Tonga. I'm quite excited by that. And I feel like it's a whereas it could just have been a shutdown, there's been an interesting development. And I think the door is open here for another interesting Bloodline debut to set off this next inning of the Bloodline saga, to use the phrase.
Yeah, so likely this could be the debut of Jacob Fatu, which has been... it's been reported that he's signed with the company. He's told people he's signed with the company, and then others have reported he has definitely signed with the company.
That's not to say that's definitely going to happen.
No. Because Mike Johnson then said he was going to debut last Friday. Then they decided to pull the plug on that because they don't need to rush the Bloodline story. They've got it mapped out for a long while to come. So they don't need to kind of rush into the Jacob Fatu debut. So it would be possibly a good time to debut him here, but it's not like they need him. This is the match I'm most looking forward to on this show, because I feel like, and I said this on the SmackDown Collision podcast a couple of weeks ago, this I think is the great success in the post-WrestleMania era that we're currently in, because the Bloodline really was relying on Roman being there. Like when Roman was not there and it was just Solo and Jimmy, the reaction was like, oh man, like when does the rest of the Bloodline come in? And by the rest of the Bloodline, it's Roman.
Yeah.
And then with The Rock came into it as well in January, like it completely exploded. And now you're looking at a Bloodline with no Roman and no Rock, and you're just back to the B squad. You're back to the B team of this thing, the NWO B team. But in one episode, I think they completely flipped that round and made Solo the main star of the Bloodline story and completely elevated Tama Tonga into a really, really like high level.
Well, because we're just for many fans, this is their introduction to Tama Tonga completely. So I
mean, you wouldn't know that by looking at Twitter, who believe that he's better than Okada.
Well, I mean, but Twitter is not your average audience. Like the number of people who are not on Twitter is a number of healthier people. But like if you look at your average audience member who are just getting their first intro to Tama Tonga here, the presentation that we have as an audience been given, and we should take in the way it's being given, is he's a beast.
He's a big time
I have no idea what MFT means, but I'm sure it means something along the lines of massive effing Tonga. I don't know, but he's really being presented as this guy who will just batter you, and like he gets out of the car with Solo on SmackDown the other day, and it's like deal with this issue.
The presentation they've done with Tama Tonga has been exceptional,
and I think Solo has stepped into this role with ease, like with aplomb. It's like one of those things where it's like putting the jacket on has almost given him a new swagger, even though it looks like it doesn't always fit him. Sometimes it gives me the energy of a year 7 putting on their school blazer. You'll grow into it, as I promise. But he seems to really enjoy it. And actually that we want Roman thing, the idea that you were quite right in pointing out that without Roman, what is the Bloodline? It's almost being used as a tool against Solo, that Solo is responding to by stepping up into the moment. So I'm really into what they're doing with it.
Yeah.
And I think if they do shoot, they could get away with not bringing Jacob Fatu here on this one, and it'd be interesting. Or he could make a debut, and then it's, again, where do we go? I just find it very interesting.
I've got the Bloodline to win.
Yeah, I would say so too. I think it would be a mistake to not have Bloodline win.
The other thing is, I said this on the SmackDown Collision podcast when we reviewed the Tama Tonga debut as well. The great strength I feel of this is that you have got, not rid of, but you've lost your part-timers in Roman and The Rock, and you're replacing them with a Bloodline that's always there. Like you mentioned the WWE Championship. When was the last time that was defended on Backlash? When was the last time the Bloodline were just an ever-presence on pay-per-view? And they're going to be on the pay-per-view here, wrestling in a tag match. And I think that's really, really exciting. I think that's a really strong look for the group. And as I said, this is the match I'm most into out of the 5 here. For the Women's Tag Team Championships, it is the Kabuki Warriors of Asuka and Kairi Sane taking on Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill, who I have a terrible habit of when I'm talking on the news calling her Jade.
Jade Cargill.
Just Jade Cargill, because I've got a marble mouth. But I'm really into the presentation. They've got Belair and Jade. Like they just look so awesome together. Obviously, they beat Damage Control at WrestleMania. Kabuki Warriors have been drafted to Raw
Yeah.
with the rest of Damage Control, while Belair and Jade are staying on SmackDown. I would imagine that Jade and Belair win the belts here.
I think it is sort of important that they do, because I think that their presentation individually, but also as a unit, has been really strong. I've loved the dominant sort of like, what they're calling themselves with Naomi, the Big Three. I think it's the Big Three.
Yeah.
I loved all of that. I mean, their entrance at Mania was just unreal.
It's one of the best things in the show.
And
on that first night, anyway.
Again, they feel like that whole business when Damage Control were watching Bayley have her match with Naomi and the skybox next to them, and suddenly they just walk in and they just felt like superstars. I think, as we sort of spoke about on Raw yesterday, the use of disqualification finishes is something you need to be very stingy with.
Mm-hmm.
And if they were to be disqualifying in this, if they were to go with a Kabuki Warriors disqualification, I think it would feel cheap, and I don't think it would get over Jade and Bianca in the way that they need to.
Or the Kabuki Warriors.
Yeah, and exactly that. And I think actually it's a good opportunity to make Bianca and Jade solidified in that sort of star run, give them the history so that when they do square off with each other, whatever shape that story takes, whether it's, heel on heel or which one of us is going to be the best, friendly competition energy, because I think that's ultimately where we're going to go, because that's what we all want to see, and I feel like it's also what Triple H would quite like to see as a booker.
Well, they set it up in the Rumble this year.
Exactly. I think it would be interesting to give them history, to really fill that story out. So yeah, I would have Jade and Bianca winning too.
I think the only downside I can see, it just occurred to me then, which is why I was doing some Googling, is that should Jade and Bianca win, they don't have a lot of tag teams on SmackDown.
Well, the women's tag can go anywhere, so that's a moot point.
Yeah, I feel that since the Kabuki Warriors have won them, they have been a SmackDown act. When Chelsea Green and Piper Niven had them, they were a Raw act. Do you see what I mean?
I know what you're saying.
The tag titles can go anywhere. That is absolutely true. But they do very much stay on the brand that they are a part. The people who have them are a part of.
I see that as a thing to note, but I don't know. I think there's especially if you're looking at star power and things like that. If they're going to have a program with a SmackDown tag team like an Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae, or like a Chelsea Green and Piper Niven, those are the only two teams. If they were to do that over on Raw, you've got your Alba Fires and Isla Dawn, you've got
Party Girls.
Exactly. So you could do it kind of anywhere. I think that's the point of these belts, is because those divisions aren't fleshed out on each show. That's why they're able to float a little bit rather than just loading it with tag teams. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, to your point, Dan, that is what they could do. It's just not what they do. So the idea would be you should do that, but history has shown us that they don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully they can do that.
Yeah, I'm predicting. I'm not stating. I'm predicting. I'm putting out hopes.
I'm predicting that they don't.
Yeah.
And it will just go into Chelsea Green and Piper Niven again, which I'm okay with because they're the best tag team in that women's division. For the women's championship, it is Bayley versus Naomi versus Tiffany Stratton. I didn't actually say, yes, we're going with Belair and Jade. We did good predictions for that. I'm going with a Bayley retention on this one.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of sort of was nicely telegraphed and going into a three-way feud after WrestleMania. I really am a big fan of that, and I'm loving to see Tiffany get this moment here. And I think that, Bayley retains here. Probably do the Naomi Tiffany cancelling each other out, and Bayley gets the retention.
I think I see a Bayley retention. I'm just not sure how it's going to go down specifically. Whether it be Nia gets involved to take one of them down and Bayley takes advantage, or if it's just a straight up clean win. Either way, I don't know. I'm really intrigued by the SmackDown women's division, which I think as a result of the draft is now more stacked than it's been in a while.
Absolutely.
And I think as I said on Monday, the movement of Nia over to SmackDown is smart, and it brings a kind of energy to. I keep thinking of Bayley and Nia at London and how they've got Glasgow coming up, and I feel like that would be a nice part too.
Yes. Oh, actually, yeah, because my big thing I thought they were going to do was Becky Piper.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Because they'd set that up in the Battle Royal the previous week, and I was like, that'd be a really fun match to do at Clash, but Piper's just been drafted over.
Yeah, and obviously, who knows what that will mean by then. But it would be interesting. Yeah, I didn't think of the local challenger aspect of it, but just purely because I was thinking of NXT London and what they did there, and it'd be nice.
If there's one thing that Triple H loves doing, it's recycling the things he did successfully in NXT. Look, fair play to him as well, because it's exactly what I would do,
and it's worked with Nia Jax here. And I also feel like I'd rather he was recycling stuff that worked in NXT than recycling stuff that didn't work on the main roster,
Absolutely.
which is what we had for about 12 years.
Yeah, exactly. Again, this is a much better way of doing it. One of the things that people used to say about NXT was like, why don't we just do this on the main roster? So Triple H is just doing it on the main roster.
Okay, bet.
Great.
So yeah, I think Bayley's getting the win. I just don't know. I don't know how it's going to go down.
For the World Championship, this is where this field's mid-card really comes into play. Because while there is some star power in with Bayley and certainly with Bianca and Jade and the Bloodline, these world title matches don't feel like big deals. And the first of this is Damian Priest versus Jey Uso. Jey Uso is the number one babyface on Raw, but does not feel like it. Damian Priest is technically the number one heel, but does not feel like it. And I think this will be a very good match, but it doesn't feel big time.
So I'm going to push back on your characterization of them specifically, because I think they are the number two of both of those things. And which kind of emphasizes your point. I think ostensibly speaking, the number one face and heel should be in the world title picture, but the number one face on Raw is CM Punk, and the number one heel on Raw is Drew McIntyre. It's just one of those people is injured, so they can't be in a feud together.
Technically, both of them are.
Yes, this is true, but I mean, one of them shows up to work and does matches, as we were told many times. But here, it was almost like they had to use Damian. I still don't. Jury's still out on whether or not the cash-in was ultimately the smart thing. It was great in the moment, but I still don't think it was...
Superb moment.
I don't think it was the best call long-term, personally. Although maybe, again, the jury's still out because let it play out. I think WWE have kind of earned that a little bit in certain places. And this might be one of them.
Gorilla Position, which is a very good podcast, their phrase is tit. Trust in trips.
Good. But Priest's... even on Raw, Priest's coming across as almost deferring to Logan Paul, who's the US champ kind of thing, going out to meet him and being that, which arguably could be, the whole welcome to my show, I'm the world champ. Let's go together. We're heels. That's whatever. But it doesn't feel like a big time feud, and Jey Uso doesn't either, and it is coming off the back of the match at WrestleMania, which he himself has said didn't go the way he wanted it, and that's putting it mildly. Yeah,
it was an underwhelming match, and Jey Uso is very aware that it was an underwhelming match.
So I don't know. Watching Jey Uso wrestle in singles matches has been a little bit like watching Jey Uso wrestle in tag matches, but on 0.5 speed. Do you know what I mean? There's something missing lately from the energy that I was getting sort of in the middle to end of last year.
In the tag run with Cody.
Yeah, well, that's very pertinent, and in War Games and stuff like that. I still think he's massively over. I still think he's charismatic,
hugely over
as hell, and I really like him. I'm just curious to how this match is going to go down. I see Damian Priest winning.
I feel with Jey, and perhaps I might be wrong on this one, and I'm willing to accept as much. I feel with Jey, the entrance is over.
Yeah,
but the heat is not there for the matches.
The yeet is there though. The heat might not be. No heat, but yeet.
Yeah. There was a period of time when WWE would vehemently argue that Daniel Bryan was not over, but yes was.
Right.
And fans would tell us no, we're doing this because we like him and we're into this. I feel this is one of the times where I'm like, maybe Yeet is more over than Jey Uso is.
Well, I think it
but it's part and parcel of who he is.
He's got kind of the same issue as LA Knight. Right, which is that I do think he's incredibly charismatic. I do think that he's got a catchphrase. I think it's hard to argue that he's not over because his music hits, people pop for him, people like him a lot. But then the bell rings, and it's hard to see why he's in the world title picture. And again, it's not because
the number one babyface on the show. Because Cody endorsing him as such you are now the top guy on this show.
Certainly, while Punk is not active, cleared. I feel like I think there are some people who would in the comments suggest that I'm just say he's bad. You don't want to say he's bad. You're hedging your bets. I don't think he's bad.
Yeah, he's
the
not
thing.
bad.
I don't think it's fair to say he's bad.
Absolutely not.
It's just not clicking for one reason or another. I would love nothing more for this match to prove us completely wrong and be an absolute
Well, I think this match is going to be great.
Yeah.
Because that's the one thing you can always say about Triple H shows. And this was very true of NXT as well. Even if the build wasn't that great, and the build wasn't always great in NXT takeovers always delivered because you've always got the in-ring star power and the in-ring ability of the wrestlers. AEW has the exact same thing. Week to week, Dynamite Collision sometimes doesn't hit the mark, but they always bust out incredible pay-per-views because it's almost impossible not to when you have got the in-ring caliber that you have. And you look up and down this card and it's like, yeah, it's in-ring caliber galore. So even if the build isn't great, even if your hype levels aren't great, the wrestling will always be good.
Yeah.
And this wrestling will be good. That does not detract from that. While that is true, that does not mean that people don't feel like main event is not true. Because they are great, credible wrestlers. Damian Priest is awesome. Jey Uso is really, really great. They don't feel like main eventers. These two things are both true.
It's the presentation of it, isn't it? And it's the same thing with Priest, where I'm like, I kind of want to press fast forward on this Judgment Day split angle so that we can...
That's because they've been doing it for 12 months at this point.
Yeah, it's just now it matters. Do you know what I mean? Before it didn't really matter because I didn't believe that, unless it was going to have the belt in there with the briefcase, which I still think is a missed opportunity to this day. I just find it a bit bland, and it's almost like two bland things in one go. They don't make a nice dish.
And lastly, for the WWE Championship, it is Cody Rhodes versus AJ Styles. And again, this one means this mid-card thing. AJ was the loser at WrestleMania, and here he is 1 month later. It's like, you could have done building of these people in the lead up to WrestleMania so that when you're out of WrestleMania and they're in title matches, they feel like, oh, of course, that's the next title match. But like, it's almost relying on the names rather than the build itself. And I think this will again be very, very good because it's Cody, who's awesome, and it's AJ, who's legit one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. And we've still got a SmackDown to go, so they could do something like this. I really wish they had made more of the fact that AJ Styles beat his dad in a title match.
Yeah, it's so interesting because there was a tweet that really popped me that said at some point Cody Rhodes is going to have to face someone who hasn't met Dusty Rhodes. That's going to be a hard match to promote. And I kind of agree with that. That's kind of interesting though, because there are so few active wrestlers on the roster who have that experience. A lot of people who can say I was Dusty's favorite son, or I was Dusty's protege, or I learned a lot from the Dream. I wrestled your dad for the world title
for the
once.
NWA World Championship, no less, which is, Dusty's belt, a belt that Cody has also held.
Yeah,
there's so much you can mine from that.
And like, in the bad faith would be like, oh, WWE would have to acknowledge some other promotion. Triple H would do that now.
But they do that now.
Yeah, they do. They do that now. I feel like that's a missed opportunity. It's one of those weird things where the question that we got asked a lot in the lead up to Mania was, who's Cody's first opponent? And I didn't really have an answer because the first opponent is almost a placeholder. It's to get one out of the way. And Shinsuke Nakamura operates that position of someone to face and lose to.
But he's already done that one.
Exactly. So I'm like, maybe... I had thought when I saw the brackets, I was like, okay, maybe an LA Knight or a Rey Mysterio.
I don't like to LA Knight. I thought would have been a really good shout. Again, would have felt mid card, but at least he won at WrestleMania.
So the other thing is when I see the AJ Styles in this list, I'm like, oh, that will be a good match. I'm really excited to watch that match. And actually, I don't think any of us think AJ Styles is going to win it.
No,
and I don't think any of us think the first person. Unless it was this time last year and they'd had someone like Brock Lesnar, you might have had a moment of peril where you go, oh, hang on, maybe he's just going to lose it straight away. So could they have saved AJ Styles for a little bit later on and built more of a story about their shared journeys, their shared past, the fact that they both ran a certain club in Japan, which is not true, but
not actually true at all.
Don't matter.
Well, that's the other thing is WWE are now acknowledging outside promotions, and they're also lying about them. Yeah. So they again, both of those things can be true,
brother. It's a little work. You got to fib things every now and again. But yeah. So I'm really looking forward to this match. I do think it could be. I truly cannot wait for them to stop referencing Dusty Rhodes. I want it to be Cody's now. I think Cody's probably a bit bothered by it as well.
I don't know. Cody's built since he left WWE, his whole deal has been building off of that. So I don't think he is. I can't imagine he is sick of that.
No, but I also think we'll finish the story became a bit.
Yeah, it's intrinsically tied to.
I think
him.
now he would like. Oh well, okay. I'm not apologize for trying to speak for Cody Rhodes. I think he probably would quite like to build his own legacy now.
I don't think we also said as well, but I'm going with Damian Priest in the previous match.
I did.
Yeah.
I said that,
okay, cool. I also agree, and I'm going with the Cody Rhodes retention here as well. So yeah, I think it is. Yeah, retentions in the championship, both championship matches, all three of the championship matches, apart from the women's tag match, which I think will go to Belair and Jade.
Yeah.
And then the Bloodline beat Orton and Owens.
I think my fear is that Cody and AJ has the potential to be Shinsuke and AJ.
I don't think so.
Burned once, fool me once, can't get fooled again, is what I always think about when I see these.
It's a new era.
Well.
And I think that these two will go out there, and I think this match will surprise. I think that this match has the potential to be one of those matches where come Sunday, when we're reviewing this show, we will say, oh man, I've been waiting for this performance from AJ for years. Like, when was the last time we had a performance out of AJ Styles that was this good?
Yeah.
I think when AJ needs to, AJ dials it up and AJ turns it up.
I mean, the match at WrestleMania was really good.
Yeah, I thought that's a great example of that, actually. Ain't no one going into AJ Styles versus they don't be like, can't wait to see this. Potential to be a proper show stealer, this. And then it was.
Yeah.
It was a really, really good match. So I think that AJ and Cody is just on fire. So I think this, again, will be a match that's going to be carried a lot by crowd reaction. And I think that is going to elevate what they're doing in the ring, which I do think will be of a very high standard.
Yeah.
So, like, up and down the show, like, I think it's going to be a really, really good card. Which is a true statement of facts from me, as a true statement of opinion from me, that I don't think has been built particularly well. Also a true statement of opinion.
It's so interesting, though, this post-WrestleMania. I don't know how much of it is you're just knackered because you've gone so hard for those first 4 months. I would say this is more entertaining to me than, like, do you remember when they had Seth and Becky's relationship tour? And they were like,
which was no good.
It was cringe in every single way.
I also think this is better than where we were last year, where last year was just, we did Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus the Usos. We blew that off at WrestleMania. Then we just did it again at Backlash.
Yeah. And we had Bad Bunny and
Cody and Brock and Bad Bunny versus Damian Priest, which was a very fun match, which again turned into a really killer thing and like just completely the right time to do it. And it was Rhea and Zelina. It was like, well, no one bought into Zelina winning, but the crowd reaction sort of like elevated that match somewhat.
It's that same thing where we're in France, so it's going to feel good. So it actually doesn't. The same thing with Australia, where it's like, it's only 4 matches, but it's still going to feel good.
It's going to feel big time because they are not starved for wrestling because there's wrestling all over the country and all over Europe.
But they don't get to
get to do the WWE thing a lot. So this is going to feel like there's going to be a crowd that are excited to be there. It's going to happen at Clash of the Castle.
Yeah.
The crowd are going to be excited to be there. The bloody had better be. Look how much they pay to get into it. And it'll be the same when they get to Berlin for Bash at Berlin. That's the great thing about doing international B shows is you're giving it to audiences that don't get it a lot, and therefore they elevate they elevate it because they're excited to be there. All In, we had this last year. All In did not have like the world's most stellar card. It did not have the world's most stellar build, but it had an excitement about it because it was AEW's first show in the UK and it was the first show in Wembley and diddly do. And so everyone was just dead excited to be there.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing will happen here at France.
I think so. I hope so.
So there he goes. Leave a comment down below with what you think of, what do you think is going to happen at this show. Myself and Dan will be reviewing this show this coming Sunday here on the WrestleTalk Podcast channel. No live reactions for it, as we've talked about on previous shows as well, but I'll just say it here again for the record. TNT Sports, which broadcasts pay-per-views in the UK, aren't now doing it for commercial purposes. They're not showing it. You can't buy a pay-per-view for a bar or a pub, which means we can't do our watch parties anymore. And someone else has sort of cornered the market. And it means that only they can really do the watch parties in the UK at this point for these shows. So it kind of sucks. We really wish we could do it. We were gearing up to do this. We kind of had like plans in place to do it, but
I was going to make escargot.
They all sort of fell apart,
Creme
unfortunately.
for everybody.
And I'd have loved that as well. Even though I do think classic French cuisine is a code word for boring.
Wow. You have some spicy takes.
Which is odd, but, which is funny to say because that's the opposite of what French food is. Someone said to me the other day, it was like, you just not had really good classic French cuisine. I was like, no, but I have tasted garlic and butter, so I have tasted all French cuisine.
Radicchio, Roquefort cheese, brie, omelette.
Oh, yeah, so like cheese, garlic, garlic and butter. French cuisine, everyone. So thank you very much. Leave a comment down below. Give us a subscribe and all that good jazz. And we'll see you this Sunday for the review. But we're back tomorrow with the AEW Dynamite review. But Luco and DAD. That has been Dan Layton. Jam that jam.